So this time I couldn't wait to start new conversations. It wasn't like I'm afraid of it. And so it's okay if it's like hard for you to do this, but just still keep doing it. And at some point you get comfortable with it and then even enjoy it. Anyway, let's get to it, because I have this long list that I want to share with people of things that happened, exciting gear that I checked out, and conversations I had. I can't share everything, of course, but there's like a lot of things that I can share, and I want to give you the update as well, Malcom.
Yes, can't wait. This has already been a crazy different episode, and I'm kind of loving it.
Yeah.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Recording Band Podcast. I am your host, Benedikt. If you're new to the show, welcome. So stoked to have you. If you're already a listener, welcome back. Glad to have you again. Today, I am, for the first time in the history of this podcast, I'm in the same time zone as Malcom when we're recording this, I think. So it's 7 a.m. in the morning, which is not the usual time for me to record podcasts. And because I'm here in California, actually, and I was just attending the NAMM show, which was awesome. And I'm about to spend, a few days here and then move on, like fly to Arkansas, make a record there, then back to LA and then home to Germany. And so I'm now in my hotel room doing this podcast with Malcom. That's why, if it sounds like different, that's why. It's probably not sounding as good, but it will work. So Malcom, I'm very excited to be doing this, like early morning episode. And we're going to do a casual sort of NAMM recap episode, I think, because I have this long list of things that happened at NAMM that I really want to share with our audience and with you, because it's been a fantastic time. Like, I can't believe what happened these last couple of days. It was awesome.
Yeah, this episode
good to have you.
Mostly to satisfy my FOMO of not being at NAMM. I'm so jealous now that you've gone and getting all the updates from you. Benny was just sending me updates, texting me, and it was just like, I literally Googled how long it would take me to drive down there to see if I could just make it for the last day.
This is so funny. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I would have loved to have you there. You'd enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but
next time I'll be there, man. Next time I'll be there.
Now I finally get to experience how you feel every single morning when we do this podcast.
Benny and I are both coffee snobs, and like when I first signed on, I saw him like hold up this like yellow styrofoam hotel cup. It just looks terrible.
It is, but it's like 24/7 free coffee. Then there, so I don't complain. So
yeah, welcome North America. Coffee's just flowing.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely.
That's funny.
So,
oh man. Okay. Real quick, I got to tell you, I had the worst dream last night about us agreeing to play a gig together, but we didn't get to rehearse, and it was kind of like this.
Terrible.
You were over here, and we were playing with tracks from our laptop, but neither of us had looked at the session in advance, and like assumed it would be easy, and then we had like these Kemper rigs we needed to pull out that we didn't prepare. It was just like a train wreck, and we were both realizing at the same time that we were screwed and wouldn't be able to pull this off. And I don't know where that came from, but I literally woke up like an hour before this podcast was like,
God, no, that sounds like I get anxiety just listening to that. No.
So if we ever play live music together, let's make sure we're on it.
Yeah, let's rehearse and prepare. Dude, no. Oh, God. Like, I wonder what triggered that.
I don't know, man. Don't know.
Talking about being prepared, we're not really prepared for this episode, but that's kind of on purpose. Like you suggested yesterday, let's just do a conversation type of thing and not really structured teaching, which I'm happy about, because like I'm so tired now. I got to be honest, like this was a very exhausting weekend, and also there's so much stuff that I can just talk to without preparation.
There's a lot to go through. I think that this whole conference is relevant to our audience, and and if you haven't been to one of these, you have no idea how exhausting they are. Even if you just like literally go and don't do anything else, so you just walk around, you'll be exhausted.
Yeah. Like every single day, I got between 20 and 25,000 steps, like every single day of these 4 days.
You'll be physically exhausted. Your ears will be exhausted just from the noise, and then your social battery will be non-existent by the end. Yeah,
totally. But it's also in a good way, though. So it's like you're exhausted, but totally happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, networking up the yin yang. And if we're honest, there's probably a party battery that's also depleted.
Yeah, totally. Although I got to the hotel pretty early every day just because like there was nothing left in me anymore. And I wanted to make the most of the next day. So I
responsible, Benny. Well done.
Didn't go. Absolutely. Totally. All right. So the other thing is I was working all night too. So I was like at NAMM morning till like all day, every day, basically. Then I got back to my hotel. Then I worked for like 3 to 4 hours or so, catching up with other stuff that's going on in the studio and like the coaching and emails and whatnot. And then I crashed. And so there wasn't really time for partying, but I still just slept like 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, that's why I'm pretty tired.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, let's get to it. So let's start by telling people what NAMM is actually, I think, because not everyone knows what that even means. So the NAMM show is a convention. It's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest sort of convention for the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
A conference, convention, trade show type thing.
Yeah, it's got to be the biggest.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it.
Exactly. And it's like NAMM stands for National Association of Music Merchants. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there's the trade show part of it where like all the brands are there and show off their gear. And then there's also the networking part of it where there is like, you can connect with members or attendees before and schedule meetings. And there's like these meeting rooms, there's seminars, there's like a whole, all of it basically. So I think there's two sides to this. The one is like the whole buyer seller relationship. And then there's the whole networking and meeting people aspect of it, which is to me the most important and exciting one. So as much as I like gear, I'm really here for the people because everyone in the industry is there for like 4 days. And this is the one chance where you can in one go basically meet all the people and get all the introductions and introduce other people to, like, you can do so much there if you're doing it correctly. And so that's what I'm really all about. And the only requirement to be there is you got to be like some kind of professional musician or audio person. Like, it's not really hard to get in. Like, people used to say like you can't get into NAMM. It's like invitation only or whatever. It's not. Like, you can apply, and the requirement is basically you got to be a producer or a musician or a buyer, like working at a music store or something like that. But it's not really hard to get in. So you just have to prove that you're actually doing it. Like, if you release songs as a musician, like, that will qualify. If you are a producer working with others, that qualifies you as well. So you just have to apply and tell them what you do. And as long as you're not just somebody who just wants to be there and does nothing in music.
Yeah, so, which is genius because it means that everybody there is somehow on the same level of like everybody's there for the same reason in a way. Like they've got that common tie, which really makes it the networking even better, and the busybodies are actually have a purpose. So it's good.
Absolutely. However, that said, like, I made the mistake in the past where I went to shows or conferences like this where I got all excited. I got there and all I did was like walk around, check out the gear, and like not really doing anything or kind of waiting for people to talk to me, which doesn't happen, especially if people don't know you. And so this time it was completely different for two reasons. First of all, surprisingly, or like maybe not so surprisingly, but it's still new to me and kind of wild. First of all, some people knew me and like approached me and invited me to meetings and like walked up to me and recognized my face or me and knew what we were doing, which was really flattering and exciting. And the other part is that I actively, in advance, reached out to many people, made a whole list of like brands I wanted to meet, people I want to meet, people I want to get like introduced to. And I actively made sure that this happened. So I really managed to, I get this long list of people and brands, and I managed to get introduced to each and every one of them, like all of them. I checked all the boxes and it just worked. And so some of them we already had, or most of them, I had already some kind of connection to, like a mutual friend or someone, or maybe I even knew them already personally because we were in touch online. So most of the people I met were not total strangers, but some of them were. But I managed to meet all of them and get appointments with all of them. And many of them even invited me. And so I really made an effort this time to make it about the people. And I checked out a lot of gear, but that was kind of only in between when I didn't have any meetings. And that is exactly the right approach. Like, if you want to use an event like this to just build relationships and to do something for your career, that's the way to do it. And I've talked to many people who do the exact opposite. They're shy and introverted and they don't walk up to people and they are there, but they're not really there. And that was me in the past.
Right.
And this time it was the exact opposite. And it's so good, so cool. And this is just a starting point, right? So now you've either nurtured the online connections and took a step further because now you had a face-to-face conversation, or you built new relationships, but it's not about, doing something right there or offering something right there or making a deal or whatever. It's about starting that relationship so that you can then nurture it, stay in contact, and then down the road, things happen usually. This is also another takeaway, that if you do that, don't assume that on that show you're going to do a bunch of deals. I did in some cases with the people I already had a connection with, but the new people, it's all about just, getting to know each other and like very low pressure and just, taking it from there. But now you kind of have a good reason to reach out again, and you can, further nurture that relationship. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, Benny and I are both going through this thing with the podcast growing over time, and we're like, it's very surprising, but sometimes we just meet people that already know who we are, and it's just like this instant connection. It's so cool. So thank you everyone for listening and watching, whatnot. Love that. But Benny's advice here is, like, you might not even realize that he's giving you advice. If you're listening, you might just think this is an experience, but he's giving you advice on when you go to these things, or if you're just a musician and you're at a show, you should have this mindset and be proactive about making connections, not for any kind of you can't be going in with gimme attitude or energy. It's just got to be like a desire to connect and network, and these things naturally turn into stuff down the road. Not all of them, of course, but some of them will. And I've had the total same experience. I went to a recording summit in Vegas. When was that? 2019, I think. Wow.
Yeah.
And a good mutual friend of both of ours, Diego, came up to me at one point because I was just hanging out, kind of talking to this fellow that I had connected with early on, and was hanging out with him for quite a while. Just like wasn't really spreading my wings beyond this one person. And he was like, "Hey man, I'm glad you're having a good time, but I really encourage you to, go and talk to other people. Like that's why you're here." And it was just like, right. I got to not be an introvert. And
yes.
He was looking out for me, and it was really good advice, and it paid off totally. It was essential. So yeah, and I'm the exact same way. Go to concerts, I'm like back of the room just watching the band. Just like, man, I should probably go talk to the band when they're done.
You should. You should, totally. Yeah, that's exactly it. And yeah, I mean, and it also helps if you have something to offer, or like a good conversation starter. If you have a platform like this, obviously it's easier, but I think that's also something that a lot of musicians can think about. If you not only make music, but you put yourself out there and you build some sort of online presence, that you don't have to start a full podcast and platform like we did or whatever, but like any kind of community around you as an artist that you can build online has value. And not just for you as an artist, and not just because of the fact that it's just great to have a community of people that you can connect with and interact with. But it's also a valuable thing that is interesting to others, because the moment you have an audience and people following you, you have something to offer to other people as well. And if you don't have that, it's really hard, I feel like, to start a conversation, because you are always going to be the one who wants something out of it, and the other person doesn't really get anything from it. And I mean, you can be creative about that. There's multiple ways to add value. You can also just be a very nice person, and, that works too. Like, you'd be surprised how well that works, actually, if you're just being nice to people.
100%.
But I think it really helps if you have some kind of anything really just to offer, so that it's not like, one of those people who just want to take a picture and
it's important to actually tell your story a little bit, so people know who and what you are, right? And this feels really uncomfortable to a lot of musicians. They tend to not want to share that information, but I'll try and tie this into a band's perspective. But if you're at a concert, you get the chance to meet the band that you just saw play that packed the house, and you don't mention that you're also in a band in their area. Maybe they're looking for another band to collaborate with. Maybe they're looking for another band to open up their show. They're not happy with the band they hired for the show you're at to open it up, and they didn't sell any tickets or promote or anything, So maybe they're looking for that connection. Or maybe you mentioned that, hey, I'm in the studio with XYZ producer, and they're like, oh, we've always wanted to work with that producer. Or maybe they don't want any of that, but then they check you out online later and they're like, man, this stuff sounds good. Who produced this? Who mixed this? Like, you have value in ways that you can't always tell. And just by being upfront and saying, hey, like, this is who we are and this is what we do, that you might not realize that you're providing value. So it's really important to kind of like communicate your resume. I get shit for this all the time in the TV world. I meet camera people and stuff. I'm like, oh, cool, nice to meet you. And then my buddy's like, Malcom works on The Amazing Race. I'm like, I guess I should have said that. That's a really good resume leader. Like, I work on big shows, and you can trust me with your audio, right? It's super important, but I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable because it can feel like bragging.
Yeah.
But you're actually just kind of like giving people context. So, there's a good and a bad way to do it. So just keep that in mind, I guess. But figure out a way to confidently communicate who you are without bragging.
Absolutely. And if you do it right, by the way, like if you get introduced to someone, you just open up, you're nice, you say hello, you shake their hands, whatever. And then you start a casual conversation. Usually people will ask what you do. They will be like, hey, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? And then it's your chance to just tell them. If they don't ask, maybe it's not the best idea to just start and like tell them the whole life story of what you do. But like usually if you're just cool, then at some point they will want to know what you do. And then just don't be afraid to tell them.
Yeah. I mean, we could go through a whole psychology of communication kind of episode, but there's certain people that like to talk about themselves and certain people that really hate talking about themselves and would much rather talk about you. So you need to give them ammo.
Yep.
Otherwise they're just like, what do I do with my hands?
Yes, totally. I'm just saying all of this, by the way, because like I had to learn this. And I remember the first time I went to a show like this, it was the Musikmesse in Frankfurt, which was like the second biggest, I think, thing. Like very similar to NAMM. It was in Germany. It doesn't exist anymore. And I went to this like, I don't know, 12 years ago or so, I think. And like at least 10 years ago. And it was completely pointless that I was there because I did nothing and I was too afraid to approach people. And back then I didn't have an audience or any records that anyone would know of. But I still could have made connections, but I just was too afraid, too introverted, didn't know how it all works. And then when I got to talk to someone, I was kind of shy and being weird. And so this was the exact opposite of that. But it took me like really years and years of like really training that, building that muscle. And now it feels natural and I'm even excited about it. So this time I couldn't wait to start new conversations. It wasn't like I'm afraid of it. And so it's okay if it's like hard for you to do this, but just still keep doing it. And at some point you get comfortable with it and then even enjoy it. Anyway, let's get to it because I have this long list that I want to share with people of things that happened, exciting gear that I checked out and conversations I had. I can't share everything, of course, but there's like a lot of things that I can share. And I want to give you the update as well, Malcom.
Yes. Can't wait. This has already been a crazy different episode and I'm kind of loving it.
Yeah, also. Yeah, me too. So one quick thing that I want to say before I get into like, especially the gear, because I've discovered quite a few exciting pieces and checked out a few things. I'm not getting paid to promote any of these things, right? So I made a bunch of posts or like stories on Instagram, and I made this highlight, by the way. If you go to Instagram and you follow me at Benedikt, just my name, one word, I'm going to put it in the show notes as well. You're going to see a highlight, if you go to my profile, the story highlights, and I made one for NAMM, which is all the stories that I posted. And I shared a lot of gear in there, but I don't get paid for any of that. I just do it because I will only share the gear that I either use or am excited about, or where I really believe in like the people behind it and I want to support them, and stuff that I find truly interesting and want to check out. And in that case, I'm just going to say like, I don't know if it's really good, but it looks exciting. So I'm just sharing things that really interest me and not things that I get paid to share. And the reason why I do this is I made some pricey mistakes in the past where I bought stuff that I wasn't really, really good or really serving me well. And I got some things that really served me well. And I have some brands and some pieces of equipment that I really believe in. And I want to help you avoid like making bad purchases. And so that's why I share the stuff that I really believe in. And it's also cool to just support people who do great work as well. So this is just me sharing without any sort of deal. I will say that there's some partnerships that we have with these companies, but so far nobody's paid me for that. And like, if we do any deals and partnerships with people, I always try to pay it forward to the community and our listeners as much as possible. So I'm not really like, our business model here is not like affiliate deals or making, money from selling gear. I would rather make sure that there's some value in it for our listeners, for our community, and like a win-win-win sort of scenario. And I just want to say that because I will never be one of those influencers who just push whatever they get paid for.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to say the one thing that will get you to mention gear that you didn't just mention in your list of why you're mentioning gear is that you also mentioned gear that you think is valuable for our audience demographic of self-recording musicians, right? That's a huge one.
Yes, absolutely. All of it, actually.
So there's a bunch of gear that I recommend that I don't own. That is the gear that I think is perfect for self-recording musicians, right? And so that's another category. And plus, if we're honest, even though we totally preach like that gear isn't that important in the recording process, like we're definitely proponents of don't get distracted by the gear. Benny and I are both total gearheads.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not going to lie, it's very exciting. And absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like it's purely a hobby, really.
Yes. Yes.
Gear is an obsession that's fun for us.
Yes. You'll see, though, on that list, there's some stuff, and it's not just gear on that list, there's mainly people, actually, but there's some stuff on there that is like, that is not just because it's a hobby and I like it, but it actually, it's workflow improvement things, or like, it's very... There's a reason for a lot of the things for why I like them, but then there's other things that like I absolutely don't need, but I just definitely want.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see those categories. All right. So let's start. So when I got there the show went from Thursday till Sunday, 4 days. It always started like 10 a.m. and then went till 6 p.m. And then there's like, of course, dinner afterwards with like, the connections you make and like all these outside of the event things. And I was all there, all day, every day there, had meetings all the time. And this is really not in chronological order. This is just some of the things that I've experienced. I can't even remember which thing happened.
I don't think it matters when.
No, exactly. So one exciting person that I met, and this is like just purely one of those relationship things where I don't have any agenda, or I don't know why, like I don't know what if and what will happen with this, but it's just super exciting to be to be talking to someone like that. Was I met Greg White, who is working at Shangri-La and Boulevard Recording, which is Boulevard is one of the most legendary sort of recording studios in Los Angeles. History, and the other one is Rick Rubin's studio, right? So this is pretty crazy. And what was so exciting about this conversation is that Greg, who I met there, is like one of the nicest, most humble people that I've met. He's like, if I was introduced to him and someone told me what he does, and Greg didn't mention it even once, like if I wouldn't have known. He's just a very humble, very nice guy that I talked to. We nerded out about like making records and whatnot, and like not once bragging about anything. And that was just really cool because there's so many people out there who are really loud on the internet and they don't really make anything that people would care about, or like they don't really make records. And then there's this guy working with the biggest artists in the world in these legendary places. And he's just hanging out, being a super nice dude, very quiet, very humble, and you wouldn't know what he does if
right.
nobody told you. So
just making the biggest records in the world.
Exactly.
That's
such a nice conversation. Yeah. And also he immediately like followed us and checked out the podcast and stuff. And I saw him like some of our things that we posted, which is cool. Like,
very cool,
yeah,
absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
So shout out to
That'd
Greg.
be a fascinating guy to talk to because Rick Rubin's process is legendary and becoming more public than ever as Rick Rubin's really taken to sharing his creative insights over the last few years, and especially his book's out now and stuff like that. So being the engineer that has to be the technical side of Rick Rubin's mastermind brain is just like, well, what does that look like? That'd be fascinating to hear about.
Totally. And to be fair, I didn't pick his brain on any of these things because a lot of it is like they can't talk about it, it's confidential, and I also don't want to do it. So I have no idea which exact records Rick has worked on, or how his relationship is with Rick Rubin, or if they even personally know each other or whatever. I don't know anything about this, just to be clear. I just met Greg. I know the places he works at. That's all.
Right.
And I know that he's a very, very, very nice guy, and I really enjoyed the conversation. So Greg, if you're listening to this, I really enjoyed hanging out with you. But I'm not going to pretend like he shared any kind of wild stories or I know anything about this. So, but I'd be absolutely down to have him on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to get it from him.
Yep, exactly, Greg. If you're up for it, like, let's go, let's do this. So then another thing that I can say is I talked to, you know Cloud Microphones, right? You know that company? And they are the the company who makes the Cloud Lifter, the device that you use if you're using a mic like this, like the SM7, the noisy, the sort of dynamic mic. You add the Cloud Lifter in between the preamp and the mic to add some clean gain. That's what everybody knows. There's other devices too, but the Cloud Lifter is one of them. And
Definitely,
of course, they make really great sounding mics. And I had a conversation with Roger Cloud, like the owner of this company. And I was checking out one of, like, I don't know, that was one of those things. Like someone said, hey, you got to check out this piece of gear. And I was like, okay. And then I went there, and it is also a preamp that you put, after the microphone in between, like your mic and the input of your interface. And it has a variable impedance knob where it's like not just switches, but like a gradual sort of knob where you can go like with a very broad range of like different impedances. And so they said I should check this out, and I was like, yeah, that's like a utility sort of thing, cool, but not really exciting. That's the first thing, that I thought. Then I tried it with different mics, and it was so cool how you could drastically, like, just by changing the impedance, change the sound of the mic, and how you could adapt any mic basically to a voice of a singer. Like if you just have one mic and not an entire mic locker, you can just make sure that like you can shift where like the how the sibilant sounds. You can make it darker without making it dull in a way. You can sort of make your own, like the one mic you have, much more versatile with that thing. Anyway, I'm saying this because I talked to Roger Cloud and he explained that to me. And then I was like, how would you explain impedance and all of that and those technical things and why that matters or how you use it? How would you explain that to like a DIY musician who is not necessarily, technical?
Yeah, I was literally, Mike, I was going to ask you that. I was like, how do we explain impedance and how it affects things?
Yeah. And then he started, and he was super nice. And then he started explaining it to me right away. Like I said this, and like half a second later, he started explaining it in the best way that I've ever heard. And I'm not going to try and say that now, because I immediately said, would you mind saying that exact thing on our podcast and telling people how that, like, why that matters and how that works and all the other things, because he's such a knowledgeable, like such a genius, and he has a great way of explaining things. And he was like, yeah, for sure, absolutely. And so we're going to have him on the podcast. And
fantastic. That's great news.
Explain that. Yeah.
Audience, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of stuff in here that's all new to me as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's fantastic.
Totally. And it's really cool to have these kind of people on because they can explain things in a better way than we can. And so you're not only hearing it from us, but from the people actually making the gear, the ones who are truly experts at this. And yeah, he's one of those geniuses. Then I had a great meeting with, I have to be careful. Like there's some things here that I can't, that I can't say
yet.
Yes, exactly. But I had a great meeting with a management company, stateside management. They manage like friends of mine, for example, Jay Moss, our mutual buddy, John McLucas, and I think Fluff as well, Ryan Bruce.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Guy. Yeah. And so I had a meeting with them. Jay Moss introduced me. Thanks, Jay, for doing that. So I met with them. We just walked around and they were super busy. So we didn't even have time to like sit down somewhere. I was just joining them, walking to their next appointment basically and having, talking on the way, which was awesome though. We had a great conversation. We'll be in touch. There's no concrete thing that we're going to be doing, but I know that they have a lot of cool people that they work with and that we could potentially get on the podcast. And then there's other opportunities maybe. But I was just saying that that was one of those things that I didn't really know would happen. Like Jay just said, hey, you should meet these people. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Put me in touch. Fantastic. And then it happened. Then I got to hang out with Dom Rivinius again. He's from Germany. We met him at Studio Szene in October in Hamburg. And also, one of those people where he just approached me at Studio Szene and said, hey, who are you? What are you doing? Like, I saw your podcast there. And then he introduced himself as like a pop producer. And I hadn't heard of him. And I was like, cool, yeah, I'm also a producer. We get to talk. And then he was like, yeah, I have this plugin company. Maybe you would like to try the plugins. I'm going to send you a license. And I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And I had no idea who I was talking to. And then I did some research and like talked to him more. And then we messaged online. Now I met him again at NAMM. Turns out he was playing drums on a Taylor Swift record and is now in LA for the Grammys. And the plugin company he has is not just like with someone or something. Like he does it with Ken Lewis, who's worked on like some of the biggest records in the world. If you look up Ken Lewis, it's insane. And so they have this plugin company together called Mixing Night Audio. And he gave me these licenses and I opened up the plugins and I was like, what am I looking at here? Because they look like it's different. Like they don't have the typical controls. It's like this gamified sort of user interface with like emojis and weird graphics and like, They have a compressor that's called the Malcom, like LOL, and it doesn't have any of the normal parameters. You just tweak weird emoji knobs and like things happen and you have to even figure out which things you can click. And it's like this gaming experience almost. And I was kind of hesitant to try it because it looked a little gimmicky. And then when I tried it finally, I regretted not doing it earlier because it sounds so amazing and it is so much fun to use. And it's such a great learning tool because what they're all about is like making tools that allow you to just really only use your ears and not pay attention to anything that's going on under the hood. You don't see any curves. You don't even know what exactly is going on because it's not just a compressor. There's saturation, there's filters, there's all kinds of things built into it. It's a whole plug-in chain. And it's so flexible. Like you can do so many things with it. And the funny thing is, although you don't really know what you're controlling, it's very intuitive in a way. It's after a few minutes, it's really clear what you're actually doing. You just don't see the exact values. And I found it so exciting. Like I was planning to like check it out for like 10 minutes or so, and I ended up playing around with it for 3 hours at night here in the hotel. So because it was so much fun. And so yeah, I told him about this, and he obviously liked that. I was excited that I liked it, and so we'll be in touch as well. And I can't say what, but we're gonna do something for the community here too, because I want you to check out these plugins because they are really awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Excited for whatever comes from that. But it seems like a trend for you, Benny, because like I know that you've got your SSL controller on your desk, and that again takes you out of looking at analyzers and stuff. Like, it's just you seem really drawn towards the tools that force you to use your ears.
And it's because I think you're right, and I think it's because I'm naturally drawn to the numbers and the analyzers, and that's I'm such a like structured, logical sort of guy that if you put it in front of me, I will pay attention and I will look at the numbers, and I can't help but like make decisions based on that. And so, especially for me, it's really helpful to not have that sometimes. And I can always open up an analyzer and see what I'm doing or whatever. But like, especially if you're that type of person, it really helps to use tools that get you in a different sort of perspective. And so I appreciate that. Yeah. So check it all out. Check it out. You all I put it in the show notes. It's called Mixing Night Audio, and we'll do something there in the near future. Again, most of those things is just building relationships. I'm not, going into with any agenda. And so I can't say details about like any things we're going to be doing. Then I met Andrew Sheps. Like Andrew Sheps is one of the, biggest mixing engineers on the planet. He's one of the people who has worked on records with Rick Rubin, for example, and mixed records for him. And he's done Jay-Z, Adele, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Metallica, like you name it, all the giant records. And I didn't just meet him or talk to him just because I'm a fan, but I met him because he's involved in a company called SoundFlow. And SoundFlow is something that I'm absolutely excited about. It's a productivity kind of tool that is like macros on steroids. They started with Pro Tools, now they integrate with Logic. But honestly, as much as I love Cubase, and I will stay a Cubase user, but if there's one thing that will make me switch DAWs, it's SoundFlow. Like, it's so crazy because what they built is a tool where with a click of a button, you can like do so many cool things that would usually take so much time that it's pretty incredible. And what I got most excited about, and that's why I was at one of their presentations, was because they announced a new product called SoundFlow U. And SoundFlow U is an education tool that I am so excited about. And I can't wait for this to become, available for more, systems and DAWs. And I don't know when that will happen because they told me that it's almost impossible at this point to make it for Windows. Like, there's certain things about the operating system that it only works on Mac.
To further explain, because I feel like some people are still like, well, what is it? It's automation, like it's automated scripts essentially. So you click a button and it will do whatever the script has been programmed to do. And that could be like go through and solo each track and bounce it out through your mix bus, or it could be like change all the vocal playlists to the one that is labeled radio edit and then print a mix. Like it'll do all of these things for you without you having to manually do it. And once you've built it once, it should in theory just work forever on all your future products and or projects and mixes and stuff like that. So you can automate all of these click extensive tasks just to happen for you, which is really great.
Absolutely. And the way it is aware of the environment is crazy, because it's not that you have with some of the other tools, you have to have things in the same place for that to work, because for it to automatically click on something, it only works if the button is always in the same spot, But with SoundFlow, it just knows the environment and the entire app, and no matter where your windows are or whatever is open, like it always clicks the right buttons and knows where to find things. And it's just such an intelligent, great tool. And what's so exciting about SoundFlow U, and this is the one that I was excited about and why it's relevant for our audience, or like our community, or will hopefully become relevant, is if that thing becomes available to everyone, and it's very early on now, but they had a demo of this and it was crazy, then this will close the gap between, we can as educators and content creators, we can either create videos and sell courses or do YouTube videos or podcasts, or we can teach people one-on-one or in a group setting, like personally. And the problem with this thing is, like, if you do the video thing, you can only hope that people implement it, right? So people watch a bunch of videos, they consume a lot of information, but many of them never really apply it or practice it, or you watch like an hour-long tutorial, and then when you go and actually want to apply it, you've already forgotten half of it, or you'd have to, there's this kind of gap between like consuming it and then actually doing it. Or we can do a one-on-one thing, which is better, but you can only help so many people. Like, it's definitely not scalable, and it's definitely not something where you can have a big impact on an entire community. And so SoundFlow U is taking SoundFlow technology, and then you can make a video tutorial that's interactive. So I can give someone can open up their session in Pro Tools, Logic, whatever they integrate with, And then if they have access to SoundFlow U, there will be a window that's popping up, and it will tell you there will be in this pop-up, there will be a window there would be a video, like a tutorial or something that will tell you what this first step or what this entire tutorial is about. And then there's an action step below it that says, now that you've seen this, do it. Click on this button. And he showed an example of like how to prep a mix, for example. And so Andrew Shepp showed this demo. He opened up Pro Tools. Then the pop-up came. There was a video of Andrew quickly explaining why it's important to prep a mix properly and what the steps are. And then it was like, okay, let's do it. Start by creating these types of tracks. And then it would highlight the section in Pro Tools that you have to click. And then you just follow that and click it. And if you click the wrong thing, he would say, nope, that was not it. Click this instead. And then if it's not possible because of some other window that's open, it will say, hey, this doesn't work because you have this other thing open. And now if you check this box, just be aware you can do that, but then this will happen. So it's very intelligent.
Curious.
It doesn't do it for you. It doesn't prevent you from doing things, but it will tell you that, this might not be a good idea and this is what you should do. And then you click it, you follow the steps, you implement it, and only then will the tutorial move to the next step. And then the next step comes. And now it's like, okay, let's color code things. But you do this by doing X, Y, Z. And now you might want to consider folders and the routing and whatnot. And it walks you through the entire setup of how to prep a session. And it doesn't do it for you, and you can still go wrong, but it will tell you when you're wrong and what went wrong. And it's been so impressive because that closes the gap between the watching videos and then like doing one-on-one coaching, because you can give someone a course, a tutorial that actually walks them through and forces them to do what they just learned.
Yeah.
And it works not just for those types of things. You could teach how to use a compressor, how to use a certain plugin. You could be like, hey, now when you print your mixes, please like create this type of folder structure. And then it moves to the Finder and shows you how to create a folder structure and like browser-based stuff. It could be like, go to this website and, anything really. It's so cool. It's really, really exciting. And typically, use cases would be obviously education platforms. So I wasn't surprised when they did this presentation that I wasn't the only one there. Like the Pure Mix guys were there, and like we're all kind of waiting for tools like that and get super excited about it. And the other application would be if you're working with someone, or in my case, like, if you have an assistant, a studio partner, you could train people to do things with you or for you in your studio with that instead of just giving them a checklist. And it's very exciting tech. Unfortunately, we're not at the point where like everyone can use it. So, and it's kind of hard to set up as well. Like there's some pre-programmed, stuff that they did. But if I wanted to customize it and make my own tutorials, I would have to know how to code. And so I can't do that really. So right now it's not for me. But the plan is that it will be at some point give you a user interface where you can easily create these tutorials and then also give access to your students and on all platforms and stuff. But this is in the future. But I just wanted to share it because I'm really excited about this tech, and I'm in touch with them, and I will do whatever I can to help improve this and test it, and whatever we can do as a community.
Yeah, that sounds like the perfect middle ground. That is really exciting. For Benny and I, that's really exciting as educators, and hopefully for our audience, that seems exciting because you'll learn better from a tool like that. That's the ideal. I have messed with SoundFlow a lot. I'm a Pro Tools user. I tried it when it first came out, and then I've tried it more recently, and it's like developed a lot since then. And it sounds like it's developing a lot more already. And as listeners probably know by now, I'm hugely excited about the future of AI in DAW integration, and I could see there being a good conjunction of all of these things meeting with SoundFlow here eventually as well. So it's exciting. I'm going to keep an eye on it for sure. I encourage pro users to check it out if you're on a compatible DAW. If you're just getting started, it's probably just going to complicate things for you. So don't. It is a time-saving tool, but it takes a huge time investment to figure out as well.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. And I'm just getting excited because I see the value that it can add, that we can bring to our audience and to our students once this tech becomes available so that we can 100%. Actually use it. That's the reason why I'm mentioning it. And I would just want to let you know that I'm very on top of this, and I will do whatever I can to be one of the first people to adopt this and use it.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds like the future to me. It's very exciting.
Exactly. So then the next thing is I just met a bunch of like really cool people, of course, that I haven't seen in a while. So a lot of people that I've seen in last time in 2018 at a recording summit in Florida that I've been to. So I met some of those people again, which is awesome. So shout out to David Duarte, for example, or Ben Johnson, he's worked with Will Putney in the past, was Will Putney's assistant, which is also kind of crazy. Now he's doing his own thing in Florida again. And so I met those guys. I met, who else was there? like a couple of those people, like I'm having a hard time
Ryan
remembering
Flair
all
was
them.
there.
Like,
I saw
sorry?
You saw
Yeah,
Ryan
right,
Flair?
of course. Ryan, yeah, he's part of the syndicate of our coaching program. I hung out with him a lot, so we actually had dinner last night.
David Kaplinger, you saw?
David Kaplinger, exactly. And yeah, just a lot of really cool people, and I really enjoyed hanging out with them and seeing familiar faces and bumping into them. And if I forgot to mention you here, sorry. Like there was so many people. Just know that I appreciated meeting every single one of you. And by the way, if you go to, like I said, my Instagram and you click on that highlight, then you see all those fine folks as well. Then, so this was obviously exciting meeting people. Then I got to meet with Dan Korneff finally. So that was really exciting. So Dan Korneff worked with, what are some of the bands he worked with? Paramore. Exactly. That, and like lots of crazy, really cool records. And he's a genius also when it comes to tech. Like he builds analog gear, fixes analog gear, makes plugins, taught himself to code. Like he's really a genius. And I met him and his business partner and former mentor, I think, Luke, and they were just the nicest people. It was so cool to meet them. And we scheduled a meeting, and then they were really prepared. They checked out the podcast and knew about Malcom, and like, which is kind of funny, you know, you walk up to someone you admire and you have never met in person before, and then they're like, yeah, and your co-host is Malcom, right? Yeah, and you do this thing. And I'm like, that's correct.
That is so crazy to me, because like I'm a huge Dan Korneff fan. I was jamming Paramore yesterday. Like,
yeah.
He does great work. That's awesome.
Absolutely. So that was really exciting. And then we got to talk, and I told them what we were all about, and that we both love their tools and use them all the time. And people see me use, for example, their AIP, Amplified Instruments Processor,
fantastic,
all the time. You are a big pawn shop fan.
Yep.
And then
we both have the L1 limiter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I told him, like, it's funny because you keep telling me to get the pawn shop, and I still don't have it for whatever reason. And I told him that, and then they were looking at each other, and Luke was like, "Dan, give him a license. give it to him. He needs a license." Like that's, you know. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And so, yeah. So this has been really cool meeting them. And now we're gonna do. We haven't talked specifics yet, but we're gonna do something for the community here as well, or like definitely keep sharing their stuff through our content, because I really believe in the people behind it and in the products. They're great plugins, unique plugins, fun plugins. We both love and use them, and they're absolutely great, and I can stand behind them. So that's really cool that we're partnering with them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite plugin companies out there.
For sure. And there's just such cool people, like even down to their marketing copy, the way they are just as people. Like I love it. Like,
Like they're the only audio newsletter I actually read. It's amazing. It's really, really, really good. Aside from yours, Benny.
Yeah.
It's good. But like it is good, and they have built-in customer loyalty right off the bat. Like it's good stuff.
Yeah,
I like them.
Also, if you message them, if you have any issues with their products, or if you message them for any other reason or reply to the emails, it doesn't go to some support staff and never reaches them. Like they see every single message, and they will get back to you, and they'll take care of it. And it's like that's what they're all about, and I really love this. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Now, then I met with Addy, who we both know. Addy's just such a great guy. Like the energy is amazing. Yeah. And so
Addy's been on the podcast. If you're not sure who we're talking about, we did an interview with Addy, Hit the Road Music, back when we were at Studio Zene in October. And that probably came out, late October or November, I think. Great dude. Like literally the most positive human being I think I've encountered on this planet.
Totally. Like Addy's energy is insane. Like his name is Addy Parshentny. He's doing, his thing is called Hit the Road Music Studio. So he's a traveling music producer, and he travels to like remote places where you wouldn't expect people to make a record like that, the way he does. And he just brings, gear, remote, recording gear, and makes makes cool music in like completely different cultures. And he's, it's great. And he's empowering so many people around the world, and helping them make records that they otherwise wouldn't be able to make. And it's really, really exciting seeing what he does.
It's crazy cool.
Yeah, totally. It's a challenge, and it's hard to do, but he's also he's such a great dude. He managed to get great partners that support him with the gear and with everything he does, and he's just on this great mission, and it's so empowering to so many artists, and like I really love what he does, and his energy is just unmatched. And the cool thing with Addy was like of course I reached out, or he reached out and was like, hey, let's definitely hang at NAMM, and I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then we tried for 3 days or so. Like the third day was when we finally managed to do it. to finally hang out, or even the fourth day. I know it took a while because we saw each other sometimes, but everyone was always busy. And then when we finally scheduled something, we were just messaging back and forth and kind of did it on as we went. And then I was waiting for him, didn't get a message back. He didn't even see my last message. And I was like, well, okay, I guess this doesn't happen today. And then 2 hours later, he was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like I was on my way there, but then I saw the djembe circle, like the drum circle that they said with the djembes. And then I just had to, participate there, and I totally got lost in it. And like for whatever 2 hours or so, he was drumming with the circle instead of meeting me. Like that's Andy, but I'm not mad at all.
Smiling away, drumming.
Yeah, and he was, and I'm not mad at all, of course, like because like there was no formal thing or anything. But like it was so cool because the message he sent me was like, that was exactly what I needed, and I could feel that after all these meetings and talking to so many people, the one thing he really wanted was just to sit in the circle with all these people and just drum for an hour. And like. So he did that. That's Addy, and his energy is just amazing. That's great. But we finally made it and got to hang out.
Oh, awesome. Addy and I have an idea to do a YouTube collaboration video together where he sends me one of his songs that he's produced, and I send him one of mine, and we swap mixes, essentially. So I work in rock, he works in like world music, essentially. So we'd both be way out of our wheelhouse and see what the results are.
Yeah.
Compared to like the mixes that actually came out. So at some point, I think we're going to do that. It'll be fun.
Oh, that's great. That's so cool. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to that. Yeah, we're definitely going to partner with Addy as well. Our community, I know that you guys love him because we got very good feedback on our episode with him. And I mean, what he's all about is really cool for our audience because he's not afraid to experiment. He knows that there are no rules. You can make it work in less than ideal situations. You don't have to be afraid to like break things or do it the wrong way. And his approach to making music and records is different from what you see people in these big studios do just out of necessity because he works in like some weird place with like, it has to make it work. Like,
yeah.
And so, and this is really exciting and very relevant also for our audience because most of us work in like, homes or places that are not meant to be recording studios. And so he's an absolute expert at that and then a very cool guy as well. So we're going to do more with him for sure. Yeah. Then, and then also what's very funny was like, do you know Recording Studio Rockstars and Working Class Audio, those two podcasts? Yeah.
Like the OG music recording podcasts.
Exactly. Matt Boudreau and Lit Shaw, such great people. I've been a long time listener and big fan of both their podcasts, and many of our, friends have been, or like people we know have been on their shows, including Addy. And so Matt Boudreau, the host of Working Class Audio, hosted a coffee and breakfast kind of thing at the booth of Grace Design. Yeah, great company as well. And so they make microphone preamps and interfaces and really, really, really high quality gear and monitor controllers and like good analog gear. And so he hosted a coffee meetup there basically. And I went. Addy was also there and Lidge was there from the Recording Studio Rockstars and just a couple of people, not many, like 10 people or so, but a really cool, like intimate sort of gathering. And then it was so funny because Addy managed, without planning it, managed to be on all three of our podcasts, like Lidge's podcast, Recording Studio Rockstars, then Working Class Audio, and our podcast, The Self-Recording Band. And Addy was on all three of those podcasts within a month or so, without planning it. Like it was totally on accident, and nobody, like they said, we never had a guest on the two shows like at the same time, like at the same week or month, and now it's like three podcasts doing that. And Lidge was like, "You hit the triple crown, Addy." Like that's kind of
this is PR act master.
Exactly. Which was very funny, and we all didn't even know, but like, yeah, this happened, and so here we were, the three podcasters, and Addy, who managed to be on all of our shows at the same time.
Yeah, he wasn't even going to be on our podcast originally. We actually had a cancellation.
Oh yeah, right.
And then did Warren introduce us? No,
Mark, I think.
Mark did. Yes, yeah.
Mark did. Yeah.
From Sound and Recording. Yeah,
totally. So that was great, and I connected with Lidge and Matt. So this was very cool, very very cool people, just as nice as you would expect after listening to their podcast. So that was cool. Then what else, man? So much. We got to do another episode on all the gear because I don't even think we can get to that, and I really want to. And so I'm not doing this to brag, but like you can be sure that every single one of these people that I met there, like I'm doing this because I want to make our community our thing more valuable, and I want to learn from all these people. I want to bring them into our sort of ecosystem and like have them share their knowledge with you or whatever in whatever way we can partner. So I'm just telling you this, guys, that there will be something in it for you for sure. And that's why I'm saying all of this. Then I met Sylvia Massey, which is also so crazy. I just love her, like love what she does. And she gave me, and this is one of my coolest NAMM experiences. I have to start with this. She was sitting there with Mark, who organizes the Studio Cine event. And then I was meeting with Mark, and he was like, yeah, I'm with Sylvia Massey. You can, just hang out with us. We'll be done in a few minutes. And so I went there. Of course, like if someone invites me to introduce me to Sylvia Massey, I won't say no. So I was there. She didn't know who I was, of course. I asked her to come on the podcast, and I think I can. I mean, I don't know when it will happen and in which format and so, but she immediately said yes. I can already say that, which is amazing. So At some point, we're going to talk to Sylvia Massey here, which is kind of mind-blowing. And then if you don't know her, like look her up. It's insane. Like she is one of the biggest microphone collections in the world. Like she has this vintage microphone museum thing. Then she has worked with like so many like really big bands, and she's known for like breaking rules all the time. Like she does unconventional recording techniques. She has a book called Recording Unhinged that I ran a giveaway, giving away this book like 3 or 4 years ago, and people really loved it. And the whole book is about recording things in a way that you typically don't, and weird recording techniques, right? She will do things like putting whatever sausage between the amp and the cab or something like that. She would plug things into a pickle or sausage or whatever, or she would like use weird things as microphones. She used on one record, she had like this carbon stick microphone from 1850 or 60, so one of the first or the first microphone that ever existed, something like that. And she actually used that on a rock record and like weird stuff like that. And so and what she's all about is like making exciting, unique stuff and like breaking rules, intentionally breaking stuff, and then seeing if you can create anything new from that. And like and she's just such a nice person. And so that was really cool.
She's the coolest. Credits, I want to give some credit shout outs because it's all over the map, which is I think the sign of like being one of the greats. It's like the ability to jump between genres. But we got like Taylor Hawkins solo stuff, rest in peace, the Melvins. We got Cage the Elephant, Soilwork, heavy metal band. System of a Down's on there. Sublime with Rome. Probably Sublime, just lower down. Like Power Mound 5000. Oh my God, I remember them. It's Smashing Pumpkins. Just everyone. Bjork, Foo Fighters, Alanis Morissette. God, Sonic Youth, Econoline Crush, Deftones, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Johnny Cash.
Yes.
REM, Tom Petty. Like what? Tools on here, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes.
Slayer, Prince. Yeah, a bunch of Prince stuff, right? Of course, that's super famous. Elton John. Like
it's quite the list.
It's the most influential musicians from the 80s all the way to present day.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And then what was totally unexpected is she's also great artist, like a visual artist. Like she draws, like creates artwork that looks really great. She illustrated the book Recording Unhinged. It's full of like colorful pictures and illustrations that are so funny, so great. I'm sure some people have seen the How to Mic a Chicken picture. You know that, where there's the chicken with like with the instructions of how to properly mic a chicken.
I don't know if I've seen that. I'm going to Google it right now.
Yeah. That's really funny. And she does things like that and is known for that. And she's a great artist. Like she does great things and very creative. And this is another side of what she does. Did you see it? If you
I'm looking at it right now. This is totally hilarious. It's like pointing at the little like what is the top of a chicken's head with the little like a rooster has the little spikes on its head and it says comb filter.
Yeah, exactly. The rubber chicken isolation mat below its feet, like it's like really
teleclucking microphone.
Yeah. And so she does things like that, and she sells her art as well as like posters and whatnot. And so anyway, I was sitting there, she was talking to Mark, got introduced, got her on the podcast, and then she was pulling out of her bag, like they sold some of her posters at NAMM and they sold out really quickly. And then she just had some left in her bag, basically, and she pulled them out and started, without saying something, like she just started pulling 3 out and signing them, and then she handed them over. And so I got this, which is great, a signed piece of art. It's like
go further away from the camera. Keep going. There we go. And now hide your face so it'll focus on it. There we go. If you're looking at YouTube, you can actually see this, the 2024 NAMM show.
Yeah, and it's awesome. So detailed. Like there's, I don't know how many 100,000 people on this Like it's all the dots you see, like this is all individual people, and it's got the whole area, live sound, guitars, drums, whatever, pro audio. And if you look closely, you can see some, sorry, I gotta get close to the mic again. You can see some sort of familiar faces. There's a guy in the pro audio space that looks very much like Tom Lord LG from the hair and everything. And you can just spot so many incredible details. Like I don't know like how much time it takes to draw something like that. It's like insane. But anyway, she gave it to me, signed it, and so now this is gonna go on the studio wall, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Then another person that I invited to the podcast, and again, he said, yes, there's no appointment for any of these things yet. So, but I know I can share some of them, not all of them, but I know I can share some of them. And if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, sorry, but I'm pretty sure it will. Really cool dude, Sam Pura. Sam Pura is a known for a lot of pop punk stuff and punk rock stuff. And he has a studio in California. Such a cool dude. And like he did a talk at our friends at Audioscape, great company making great, hardware tools. And he, had a talk there. He sat on their couch and just shared his knowledge on gear and building the studio and how he uses it, and had a lot of questions about the Audioscape gear. Very cool. And so, and then I got to talk to him, meet him, and the things he shared when he sat there and talked about audio and how passionate he is about everything. I just did the same thing that I did with Roger Cloud. I was like, hey, Sam, would you mind saying that exact same thing on our podcast? Because I want people to hear this. This is so valuable and so cool. And he was like, absolutely, right? And so, and he's going to be, if we ever censor our podcast and add beeps and stuff, like if we do that with Sam, this is going to be like, I don't know, 2,000 beeps or so in one episode, because there's like two or three fuckins in every single sentence.
That's funny.
Yeah, totally. But he's so, and the way
I've never gotten to chat to Sam personally, but I've become aware of some of his recording techniques that are pretty unique and very detail orientated. There's no hiding when you're making a record with Sam. You how good you are is going to be very evident with how he makes things transparent. Yeah. So that'll be very cool to hear from him.
Yeah. It's so knowledgeable also. Like he's cool and approachable and like just, funny. And like there was this one situation where he was talking about whatever piece of gear. And then he was like, hey, yo, there's Steven Tyler. So-and-so is my favorite song. And he was talking about Aerosmith and whatever. And then everybody was looking. And there was this dude. And I'm really not sure if it was Steven Tyler. Like, I think nobody's, like, it looked exactly like Steven Tyler. It might have been him. I don't know. But like that dude was like, shaking his head and like, like it wasn't like he didn't appreciate being called out, and then quickly left. But he looked definitely like Steven Tyler and might have been Steven Tyler. I'm not sure. And I think we all are not sure, but Sam was immediately calling him out and being like, yo, I like this record and this, this is my favorite part of the song and whatever. And then this guy's left very quickly. So, yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was Steven Tyler, but I'm not sure. We were just speculating. But anyway, and so, and he's so knowledgeable. He was talking about, getting into like 1176s, and then he was like, yo, and the ref D and the ref F and the ref whatever, and the differences between them. And he gets so passionate about these details that don't really matter that much, especially if you're starting out. But he loves making records so much, and he loves using the gear. And he's not all about analog gear. He also loves plugins. He makes his own plugins, which are awesome, by the way. But just hearing him talk about this is just infectious. And so that's why I wanted to have him on the podcast.
Looking forward to that. That'll be great. Oh,
dude,
man.
What a trip. Yeah, let's do another episode, because there's so much more, and I feel like there could be, we could either add this 2 other episodes or make another one, because I really want to get into some of the gear that's highly relevant for our audience, and I got so much more on that list. Let's do another one, because I actually have a call in 10 minutes.
Yeah, we got it.
Awesome. But yeah, I just want to say again, thank you to everyone that I met, and thank you for all the introductions. If you're checking out this podcast, thank you for doing that. All the great people making this great gear, and like it's been wild, and I need some time to like decompress now and think about all of this and follow up with all people, and I'm beyond excited about this. Yeah,
fantastic, man. Yeah, can't wait for some of these interviews and other things that are coming as a result of this. I'm so jealous that I wasn't there, but next year I'm going to be there
for sure. Yeah, you should be. And shout out and happy belated birthday to Warren Hewitt.
Yeah, happy birthday, Warren.
Absolutely. His birthday was yesterday. We met him again. We met him at Studio Cine for the first time, had him on the podcast before, and then of course met him at NAMM a couple of times. And he's just also such a nice guy. And
yeah, Warren's the real deal for sure.
Absolutely. Hope you celebrated, Warren, and happy belated birthday. All right. Sorry, Malcolm. This was all about me and my experience there, but like I just had.
Oh, I wanted to hear about it. I'm pretty much in the audience for this episode. I'm like, tell me what happened.
Yeah. Then there's so much more as well. And again, I'm very careful. I'm only telling you the things that I actually can talk about. There's much more that I can't, but you'll see at some point. So
it'll come. Yeah. Great.
Very cool. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Go check out, by the way, here's some value. Again, if you go to the show notes and you click on my Instagram at Benedikt, and you click on the NAMM highlight reel that I have there, like highlight story thing that I have there, you see all my gear recommendations and also with some details on why I think it's exciting or what I think is exciting. So if you're into the whole gear thing and want to see some recommendations and also the people behind the gear, go check that out and check out those companies and maybe there's something in it for you. There's no affiliate links. There's no deals. I'm not getting paid for this. It's just my recommendations. And then also you see the faces of the people that I've just been talking about. So
yeah, perfect.
All right.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right. See you next week. Bye.